I think yes. Part of the answer you have covered in your question only. They should be cool. Last minute learning is not at all important. Whatever they have learned it, they have to means revise everything, chapter wise, concept, definition, formula, everything, whatever they have studied, they have to go through on the paper. They should keep that study material ready with them. They should have proper sleep. They should have proper cool mind. And other one also, extra things they should not do. There is a change now. So anything, whatever they have learned it till now, they have to continue with the same thing. If they experiment anything unnecessarily, it will be creating a lot of disturbance for them.
Okay. So, does that mean that you would not recommend students to take up any new chapter now if they've not touched some chapter by chance, by mistake? Should they take it up now, or should they just skip it?
Right now, I think a big chapter they should not touch it now. Already small chapters are there. If they haven't touched it, like chapter names and all, I'll be explaining it, so they can touch now. So, for example, alternating current is there is considered to be tough, but
Hmm.
if they wanted to, means master it within 2 3 days with some help, they can do it. So, like the extra topic, extra learning, they should not do now. Whatever they have learned it till now, they have to revise that.
Would you also say that this is the right time to start solving more of sample papers and previous year questions?
Exactly. So first very important point is all the students who are going to write their 12th examination, they did not write their 10th exam because of the COVID simply they got promoted. So many of the students they lost the writing habit. So my
Hmm.
sincere advice is along with the CBSE board order released two question papers, one model paper and one practice paper. They have to keep the practice paper with them. And along with that, in their school also, they must have given some question papers. So practice is the very important practice of writing. So
Hmm.
many of the students lost practice in the writing. So my sincere advice to each and every student is at least from every subject, not only physics, they
Hmm.
have to practice four question papers, model papers, right from question 1 to question number 35. If they are practicing it, they will be getting habituated to the practice of writing all the questions for 3 hours time. So it will be boosting up their morale and they can write confidently.
So, talking about COVID and how students had lost their practice of writing, there are also students who might be preparing for exams now who got used to having 50% of the syllabus, and who also got used to having online classes, online exams. So, for those kids who would have seen 50% syllabus in one exam, who would have not covered the whole syllabus in one go, what would be your advice to them? How can they make sure that their learning, their grasping power is as strong as it was earlier with half of the syllabus?
So this year, students who are there in the 12th class, I think there is no term like that. Total syllabus is covered there. Last year only they have given 50% in term one, fifty
Hmm.
percent in term two. This year complete syllabus is there. Because of the this improved situation and all, every places in all the states throughout India, classes are running regularly. But only the thing I'm requesting and I'm expecting the children to practice more. Writing practice is the very important factor. And the syllabus is whatever the syllabus CBSE prescribed right from the day one. There's last year syllabus deleted syllabus is there, but this year same syllabus, whatever syllabus is there, they are continuing it, and student is supposed to follow all the means the papers and the right, especially nothing is deleted now. All the chapters, particularly in physics, nine chapters are nine units are there and 14 chapters are there. Well defined syllabus is there, and from within that syllabus they have to prepare it.
But so, just for an example, if somebody who was appearing for the exam for class 11 exam earlier and gave 50%, and now their learning grasping power has deteriorated a bit, they're not used to it that much. What tips and tricks can you give? What are few of the uh, I wouldn't call them shortcuts, but easy ways through which they can learn, if they can probably make it easier through some game or something like that?
The students are categorized into two types. Some students will be expecting full marks. Some students are having phobia how to means overcome the physics examination or mathematics examination because they are the science subjects. So my sincere advice is whoever is expecting full mark, that means 100%, they have to go each and every concept detailing in the chapter is very important. But other set of students, somebody is having more confusion. And last year they studied only 50%. Because in the 12th class, we are not giving any 11th syllabus. Directly 12th full syllabus is covered this year. But
Mm.
there also, what are the chapters are important? For example, if we take in physics, right from electrostatics to last chapter electronics, there are total means 9 units are there, 40 chapters are there. So last topic, for example, semiconductor physics, or we can call it as electronics. What is the energy gap in solids as well as semiconductors, conductors, and insulators? And what is the different types of the semiconductors? What is the p-type semiconductor, n-type semiconductor, and p-n junction diode? So, how junction diode is acting as a rectifier and all. So that small part, it may be covering around maximum 5 pages of the textbook or 6 pages of the textbook. If they are thorough with the questions line by line as well as the NCRT
Mm.
problems, student can get 7 marks out of that chapter. And going with the other chapter called as the it's a atom and nuclei. And
Mm.
other is a dual nature of radiation and matter. So these chapters, they are covering around 12 marks in the final examination. And these subjects are also interlinked with the chemistry. If they are mastering these subjects, simultaneously they are learning some part of chemistry also. So I expect the students to go through this to have the more confidence instead of taking vast big syllabus. They have the small chapters are there, like I told, electronics, atom and nuclei, real nature of matter, and then EM waves are there. EM waves, it's very electromagnetic spectrum. How
Mm.
the with the frequency and with the wavelength, how it is going to change, what are the properties and what are the uses, and all those things that they're preparing, it's very simple for them. And another point is, if you state, for example, total there are 35 questions are there in final examination. In the 35 questions, 18 questions are there objective type,
Right.
multiple choice. And 2 marks questions are there around 7. And 3 marks questions are there around 5. And 5 marks questions are there 3. And 4 marks questions are there 2. So my fundamental thing is 5 marks questions 3 are there. There is the internal choice. Though
Mm.
paper is for 70 marks, with internal choice, total it is around 99 marks we are getting.
Mhm.
First chapter, if they are missing the first chapter called electrostatics, they will be losing 5 marks. Because if you see the CBSE paper, first paper as well as the practice paper, first chapter electrostatic itself, it is covering 5 marks.
Mm.
Therefore, my advice is at least the first portion, if they are not able to do it, the second part is that the chapter called electric potential, electric capacitor, and how the energy stored in the capacitor is going to change, and how they are connected. Capacitors are connected in series and parallel. If they are doing it, I am sure that they can do 5 marks question comfortably.
Mm.
Similarly, coming to I think I'll elaborate. Let me
Yeah,
elaborate.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Coming to the second chapter called current electricity. So
Mm.
they are basically first part, even if they wanted to skip it, what is the resistor? What is the resistivity? How resistance is going to change with the temperature? Cells connected in series, cells connected in parallel. So, and Kirchhoff laws and Wheatstone bridge. These are the simple things. Easily they can retain and remember. So
Mm.
therefore they can conquer 5 marks. So like that they have to categorize it. And if they are missing, for example, dual nature of radiation matter, if you take it, the 3 marks question is there, even internal choice also given from the same chapter. If the student is missing that particular chapter, he'll be losing 3 marks.
Right.
Similarly, if I take AC currents, 3 marks are there. Internal choice also is given from the same chapter.
Mm.
If the same thing is continued, like in CBSE model paper and practice paper, whatever the pattern they have given it, if the same thing is continued in the final examination, student is missing those two, obviously they will be missing the 6 marks.
Mm.
Therefore, what my personal advice to every student, let them go through CBSE model paper, practice paper, along with the papers given from the school, and also some practice paper available from the market. If they are doing it, they can understand the pattern, question pattern, and all. So comfortably, they can attend the right exam.
So this was very helpful when it comes to preparing for the exam few weeks before. But when it would be just 2 days before the exam, and at that time the tensions are high. At that time, children do get like very stressed, and they are not very sure how to prepare and what are the main things that they should do. So in such cases, when it's just 2 days before the exam or something like that, what would be your advice to them? Would it be note making, note revision, just sample papers, or just like going through your questions and probably just like going through the chapters in a hurried way? What would be your suggestion for that?
That's what I just now informed. There are some topics like electronics is there, atom and nuclei is there, and the EM waves is there, electromagnetic waves. If they are thorough with that, and also if they are thorough with the optics, physical optics and ray optics, as I told, some part of electricity and all, and if they make a proper note, and whatever the questions are appearing in the first paper, second paper, as well as 4, 5 practice papers, for sure they can get very good marks. They have to make a proper note, but they
Notes.
should not miss the topics. They should not miss the topics what I mentioned. Electronic they should not miss. Atom and nuclear they are very simple in concepts because chapters they are maybe around 5, 6 pages. Within even as we are telling last minute till now they did not touch that chapter. Even if they start preparing today onwards, they can also do well in that. But big chapter like electrostatics is there. If they wanted to start right now, it's not possible to
Hmm.
learn each and every concept. There are some concepts are there which will be around 60 to 65% of the marks can be easily captured by having systematic preparation and systematic selection of the topics and those questions. Those topics already mentioned. One is electronics, other one is atom and nuclei, and optics. Optics also, if we are going for optical instruments, only simple microscope is there, and refractive and reflective telescopes are there. What are the differences between them? Some questions easily they can attend it and easily they can make it. And particularly with respect to the electricity, they have to maintain the circuit diagrams. And with respect to the optics, ray diagrams, they have to practice. All circuit diagrams and ray diagrams put together, maybe around 20, not more than 10. If they're practicing, they will get a lot of what you call self-satisfaction. So
Right.
they will get self-motivated.
Hmm. That's a very good advice, that practice so that you get self motivated and you have self confidence for that. So one thing that a lot of students sometimes what they do is that when they're revising one topic, one chapter, and they get say bored of it, or they are unable to understand it, they shift to the next chapter and then they come back to the one that they had left before. Do you think mixing of chapters this way while revision or while learning is a good idea? Does it help with refreshing your mind, or will it confuse the child more?
Not certainly. Uh, they can also be shift from one topic to the other topic. But the question is, one topic once he's selecting it, concepts are very less in number, definitions and formulae. If they are by hearting or remembering, suppose if you take our total pattern of the question paper, 70 marks,
Hmm.
it means 100% of the marks when we take it. So there on the remembering method, retention method and understanding method, you will get 40% of the questions. That means around 28 marks we can get it based on the retention and understanding method.
Hmm.
And retention and understanding is nothing but just by hearting the concept, definition, formula, and a ray diagram and circuit diagram. So this is one part. And other one is the application part. Application part means we have learned one particular concept and that formula you are applying it. In that formula, substituting and getting the answer. So application method. So that application method, around 30% they are going to cover it. So 40% is on this method, that
Hmm.
is understanding and remembering, and that 30% is there on the application method.
Hmm.
So 70% of the questions, that means around 70, 50 marks student can get simply means by practicing the concept, definition, formula of each and every chapter. If they rewriting, revising a number of times, they can.
Hmm.
Avoiding that 30% is the big challenge. because they have to work hard, because that is the analytical thinking should be there. Analysis is there. So that is the part they have to take care.
So it's interesting that we were just talking about this, and a viewer Manas Srivastav has just asked us a question that in terms of theory questions, something that we just talked about, how important are diagrams in a theory questions in the physics exam?
Of course, the suppose an optical instrument, they are asking what is the ray diagram of simple microscope. So you
Hmm.
want to find out the magnification of the means microscope or magnification of the is, telescope. Without ray diagram, you cannot explain anything. So ray diagram is the integral part of some of the optic question, and circuit diagram is also integral part of all the electricity questions. Suppose if you wanted to explain PN junction in forward bias, without drawing the diagram, circuit diagram, how we can explain it? So that's why it circuits, as I told Mr. Srivastav, there are only around 20 to 25 ray diagrams are there, total 12th class put together. You start practicing today itself, that's enough. You can you'll get a lot of confidence that you learned so many things. So draw the diagram. What is the magnification formula and what is the means the formula for different to find out the refractive index, lens maker's formula. So all those things, you have to practice it without ray diagram. Where is the object? Where is the image? How you can draw without drawing the ray diagram? How can you find it out? That's why diagrams also is very important.
Okay. So picking up from that, this is a question that we have had in previous sessions too. That kids are always a bit confused. How much of the evaluation, how much of the assessment is dependent on the presentation of the answer. Considering that physics is a mix of theory and practical, uh, does presentation of the theory answer really matter? And if yes, then how much? And how can they deal with that considering the time constraint?
My answer is yes, because in every examination, like as you are telling, like competitive exam is there and descriptive examination is
Hmm.
there. So competitive examination, descriptive examination, the main difference is subject is same. But in the descriptive examination, that is board examination, presentation, the how best you are presenting it, that plays very important role. Whereas in the competitive examination, best management of the time, how best you are managing the time accurately, that plays very key role. So presentation is very important. Whatever the questions are given in CBSE, around 35 questions are there. So you go through 15 minutes time is given to go through all the question papers, and after that we'll be starting it. You select the best question. So because first impression is the best impression, whoever is evaluating means your question paper, the way you are presenting that part is very important
Hmm.
because it is the subjective examination marks in the objective examination after solving it. If you are finding out the answer, yes or no, whether you get 0 mark or one
Hmm.
mark in objective model. Whereas in the descriptive model, it is not like that. If you are presenting properly, there are 10 steps are supposed to be presented and you have written 9 steps. So you are not going to get 0 mark. If 5 mark question is there, and if you are presenting properly, finally you are not able to do it properly, at least you can get 4 marks or 3 marks, but never be zero. Therefore,
Hmm.
my personal sincere advice is don't do shortcut method in the descriptive model of examination. You
Hmm.
present it. It doesn't mean that you have to elaborate pages together, but to the extent possible, elaborate positively all the answers. Therefore, you will be getting the marks.
I
Because
would.
no question getting 0 mark. Either 5 marks or 2 marks question is there. Something you are scribbling and writing. So examiner will be checking up your intention and your idea. Based on that, they will be awarding either 1 mark or half mark. Like that, you can get. So that's why presentation is very important in the descriptive model of examination.
I would like to once remind all the students who are watching it that please feel free to put in your questions in the comment box. Dr. Prasad is here to answer all the queries today. So, picking up from your previous question, we talked about you. You talked about how they're given 15 minutes reading time in the CBSE exam. In that 15 minutes, what should be a student's best strategy? Should they read out the whole question paper first, or should they just go step by step and utilize that time to calm themselves down?
No, no. That 15 minutes time, particularly, you should use it only to read out all the questions.
Hmm.
But it doesn't mean that question line by line to study. The moment he is going through the question, 35 questions, he will come to know which question he knows very well. He is very confident. Because order of writing the question is not important here. He can start with 35th question or he can go with the 27th question or first question. 35th, first, 27th or 29th, anything. Order is not at all a matter here. That's why. But my sincere advice is I ask all the students not to go for objective type questions initially. Why? Because initially, if they start spending time on the objective type question, because one question, if they are not able to do it properly, if they are spending 10 minutes time, even if they would do it correct, also they'll get only 1 mark. At the cost of one particular question, they should not lose the 10 questions. So my sincere advice to all the children is first they should go with either 5 mark or 2 mark or 3 mark or 5 mark, 4 mark questions first. And lastly only, last half an hour they have to keep it for means revisiting the or rechecking the answer. But 30 minutes time to 40 minutes time, they have to keep it to answer 18 questions of the objective type questions. So my advice is not to start with question number 1 to 18. What's your question number 1 to 18? In that also three objective type questions, assertion reason type questions are there.
Hmm.
Assertion reason, they get confused unnecessarily because ultimately they're covering only 18 marks. So remaining all other marks are there. So they have to start with either 5 mark or 4 mark or 3 mark or 2 mark, not with the 1 mark question. That 1 mark question should be attempted only at the. It's my advice and my suggestion. Ultimately, it's the student choice. Which
Definitely. But I think this is a very good advice and a very fresh advice, something that not a lot of students know, that let's not do the MCQs first and do the theory part first. Thank you for that. Sir, a viewer, Agrima, has asked that many students refer to H.C. Verma. Is it necessary to refer other books except for NCRT?
I think for board examination, not necessarily NCRT care. Sticking to the NCRT book and exemplary problem, that's more than enough to get full marks.
Okay. So sticking to NCRT is the key. But when it comes to sample papers, solving sample papers, we know that CBSE does issue out a lot of sample papers, and there are previous exam papers also available from CBSE. Would you suggest going through just those, or would you suggest some other sample papers also for these revisions?
From wherever they can get, we don't have any choice for that. But minimum 4 to 5 papers, sample paper, they have to sit 3 hours time and write it. Suppose if they take one physics paper, 3 hours time, full length paper, they have to write it. Like that, if they are writing 4 papers, 4 sample papers or 5 sample papers, that's more than.
And so this time, CBSE introduced competency based questions, as we know. uh, the the objective behind that is good, but students are a bit confused about how the questions will be, how not, like how to solve them. So when it comes to physics exams specifically, what kind of changes in the questions can be expected this year in terms of competency exam questions?
As I told earlier, in 70 marks, that means 100% if you take it, 70% of the questions are coming from understanding and remembrance, retaining the concepts and application. Remaining 30%, whatever you are telling, that is based on the competency. So if you go through the question paper, even model paper, also they are not that much easy. But they, for every question, they have given 1, 2, 3 questions like that. So that means a student simply they cannot do all the questions, but if he is thorough, he will get full marks. But competency based questions introduced also in the CBSE pattern of the exam is very important. Why? Because either JEE or means NEET or any examination, competitive is a very important role. Time management and accuracy also play very important role. So 18 questions they have introduced in the first competency based only, and after that they have introduced case based study questions. So those case-based study questions, they have to read it with patience. When you are there, in general, student while studying at the first line, and when you get to the last line, they'll forget what they have studied. That's why my sincere advice to everybody, while reading the question from first means word to the last word in the case study, they have to go through line by line and concentrate on that. Then only they can get all the means questions connected to that case. They can answer it thoroughly. But
Right.
only with at most what you call involvement, concentration is important while dealing with those case-based studies.
So, we also have a question which is a bit of something that you had said earlier, but Manas Srivastav has asked again that since the syllabus is vast and there are a lot of last minute revisions needed, so to avoid the situation of panic, which is a lot in board exam students, so to avoid that kind of a situation in the final hours, what would you suggest the revision schedule to be? What do you advise your students to do at that time?
I think part of this answer already covered earlier, but
Hmm.
once again, I'm telling, if you are going through that electrostatics, take the next part of that. What is that? Potential. Start from electric potential. Instead of electric field and all, you don't go through that. Start with electric potential. What is the capacitor? Energy stored in the capacitor. Capacitor connected in series, connected in parallel. If you are going through that, at least 5 marks question up to certain extent you can answer it. Because you are going to get 5 marks question with internal choice from the same chapter. So that's why if you are means completely avoiding the chapter, you'll be losing 5 marks. That's why my advice is second part of that electrostatics you can do it. Similarly, if you go to the current electricity, there also you are getting two questions from both model paper as well as practice paper. If you see from current electricity, you are getting 5 marks question with the internal choice of the same chapter. That is why you avoid the first part. Go to the second part. What is the resistance? What is the resistivity? How resistance is going to change with the temperature, and cells connected in series, cells connected in parallel, and Kirchhoff laws and Wheatstone law. That part not so difficult. Easily you can master it. So two 5 marks questions you have already answered. Then go to the optics. And the optics method, as I told, that ray diagrams and simple microscope, compound microscope, as well as reflection, refraction, all those things, and lens maker formula. If you are thorough with that, another 5 marks can be covered. And as I told, last points, anyhow, you have to study. There is no other good. That electron semiconductor devices, very small syllabus. If you go through that, 4 or 5 pages. Atom and nuclei, there is some connection with the chemistry. And also dual nature of the radiation matter. What is the photoelectric? Even photoelectric effect you are studying in chemistry also. Photoelectric effect and de Broglie wavelength and all those things. Very easy. And electromagnetic spectrum. So you are for sure you are going to get 2 marks. How spectrum is going to change with respect to the frequency, with respect to the wavelength, what are the properties, what are the uses, not even one page book. If you are thorough with that, last minute you can avoid your tension. Mr. Srivastava, I think I'm clear with my word.
But sir, so this is like the last day or few days before the exam. What should students do on the morning of the exam? There are a lot of students who brush through their notes in the morning, a few hours before the exam. Do you recommend going doing that, or do you would you advise that it's okay and just take the morning, not hurry through your notes and just be confident about your preparation?
They want to just bonding time of the examination, let them go to CDF. Concepts, definition, formula. But
That's it. Right.
they have to revise it. You see, it's early morning they got up at around 10:30. They are supposed to be in the
Hmm.
exam. That
Exactly.
means 1 hour prior to that. So what they can do? Just going. If they wanted to study, they have to be early. The
Hmm.
short problems already revised it, but still getting confused. Only those concept definition formula. Just you have to visit, nothing else.
And so this time, because we have CUET now, which was introduced last year, now kids are having to go through several different exams. It can be, so it is class 12th, obviously, and then they have CUET exam. With that, somebody can be appearing for JEE or somebody can be appearing for NEET. But there are also students who appear for JEE and NEET both, or some other exam. So now considering that there are different kinds of entrance exams happening along with the CBSE board, and all of them have to some extent different formats of the exam, if not different syllabus, at least different formats. How can they manage that stress, that hectic schedule, and make sure that they are preparing for each format of the exam? of all exams.
So incidentally, CBSE also has done some help to all the children by introducing this objective type model questions. Around 18 questions are there in every examination.
Mm.
So whether it is CUB or any other examination like IIT or NEET, JEE or NEET, so that is the competitive examination. So competitive examination, time management is the very important factor. And quickly they have to respond it. Like in a board examination, student after going through all the questions, again half an hour time, he can recheck and re-verify whether questions done correctly or not. But in competitive examination, it's not possible. Time and accuracy, they have to maintain it properly. So for that, what is that, means in every competitive examination, stress is the integral part. Without stress, nobody will complete it. Let it be any even game you take it or education you take it, any part of the field, wherever competition, huge strength and less number. So competition is the integral part. So how you can means overcome that stress. So only the simple formula is maximizing the practice so that stress can be minimized. So I request and I expect all my children to practice more. For subjective examination, what is the thumb rule? Descriptive model, you write more than 3 hours exam question papers, you write more and more descriptive examination. Similarly, for objective model examinations, they have to take more and more number of question papers and they have to practice it. Otherwise, time is not sufficient. If student is practicing more number of questions, sometimes without even putting pen over the paper, they can write answers because so many of the questions will get repeated. The student is from 11th class to 12th class continuously practicing for competitive model of examination for JE or NEET. At least 20 to 30% of the questions, there is no need to solve it because they have seen the type of question number of times earlier. Therefore, directly they can answer it. That's how they will be saving a lot of time. So any new question is there, they can spend it. So time management, which accuracy is the key factor in competitive. But syllabus is there for objective or descriptive.
Hmm. So one thing that because of the pandemic, a lot of students, and it has been proven in some surveys that a lot of students developed mental health issues, which was something that not only just came in their way of personal life, but also their academic life. In such cases, few days before the exam, obviously the stress will heighten up, which will also increase the anxiety or other mental health issues. So, for those children who are suffering through mental health diseases or who are very anxious or who are very scared, what would be your advice to them in these last few weeks?
So it's a very important question as you are telling that day by day the type of cases are increasing. So mainly competition is the very is a factor for that. There are four pillars in this education system. One is the student, second one is the parent, third one is the teacher, fourth one is the administration. So everybody, if they are playing their own role, this type of problems can be reduced. So we should have empathy about the children. So instead of simply asking it why you got less marks, if parent is asking, student is also asking, friends also asking, and a teacher is asking, then obviously student will be a bit, means morale will be down. So instead, what you have to do, no problem. You have attempted first time in the learning process. There may be some sort of a less marks, but you can correct it. We have to encourage them. The moment you start encouraging them, thereafter maximum 16 to 17-year children, whoever is writing 12th class, what we are expecting, we have to encourage them. No problem. Next time you write this examination, you are going to get it. All these are the practice examinations. Like that, in the first exam itself, practice exam, the student is getting less mark. If we start scolding them, so by the time they write the final examination, they will be losing their confidence. So to avoid that, from day one, whenever they're losing the marks, then we have to. Even I'm happy with that CBSE also introduced practicals and all, activities and all. All the students are doing really all those activities properly and practicals properly. Majority, by demonstration method, by experimental method, they can learn the subject very easily instead of the direct lecture method. So that's why my suggestion is in the last minute, we have to tell that these are the chapters. I gave around 6 to 7 topics are there.
Yes.
In that,
Yeah.
if they are going through the concepts, less in number. Total, you can get around 50 to 60 concepts are there, 40 to 50 formulas are there, around 20 ray diagrams are there in my subject. Even other subjects also, if they are practicing like that. Luckily, I think another point, Risha, there is some gap in the examination. One exam to
Yes.
another examination, gap is
Mhm.
there. So in that gap also, if they are effectively utilizing it
Mm.
without losing the confidence, I'm sure that this problem can be reduced. But only the thing is, students should really means listen to the means parent, listen to the teacher.
Yeah.
Still, if you feel that I'm worried in the sense, there is no solution for that. He's worried, parents are there to help them, and teachers are there to help them. And the moment he understands that point, I think the problem can be avoided.
Great. That was very sound advice, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking out time today and giving out such good tips. I think because of you, students now know which are the important topics, which are the ones that they should not miss. Thank you for taking out time. To all the students who are watching this, thank you for tuning in today. We hope the session has helped you. Tomorrow we'll be live again at 4 p.m. We'll have Miss Sandeepa Madan with us, who will be talking about how to prepare for the economics exam of class 12th. And we hope to see you soon there too. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for
Thank
taking
you,
our time. And we wish you all the best to you and your students for the upcoming exams.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wish you good luck, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.